a water bottle. And it was full. So the magpie goes over and sips out the water. Now the beak is only, what, an inch and a half long or an inch at most? So it goes in until it can't reach the water anymore. So what does it do? It goes off to the side, gets a rock, just the right size, drops it into the water bottle.
It raises the level of the water.
Thereby displacing water. Here it is.
That is heavy.
You've got the video. There it is. And so it comes and it goes back and gets another stone, drops it in, and every time it drops it in, the water level rises and it can drink more water. And it keeps doing this.
That's pretty amazing.
Okay? And so every time we study animals, they're smarter than we ever thought they were. So maybe for our own ego, we kept building ourselves up, saying how separate and distinct we are as humans in the animal kingdom, when maybe we're not as separate and distinct as we think we are. So now what's my broader point there about that I was making? I just distracted myself.
Something about UFOs?
Yeah, I know. I was trying to get back to UFOs on that.
The fact that we have high-resolution cameras in our pocket and we take videos of things that are very unusual.
Exactly. So here's video of a magpie doing Bernoulli experiments on a water bottle. Who would have known that even happened, right?
Right.
Okay. You can't bring the bird into a lab and maybe you could, but I don't know that anyone did. All right. Here's my point. In the 1960s and 70s, there were many, many reports of alien abductions. People said, the aliens came to me and they brought me in and then they released me. Do you have any footage? No, they took my camera. Or no, they zapped my film and now there's no image on the film. But there were countless stories. Well, now you can stream live from your camera anything that's going on in front of you. So if the aliens come and they want to abduct you, stream it. That would be instantly viral. Oh my gosh. The stuff that goes viral is much less than that. A kitten that jumps to the table and falls, that goes viral? You don't think a video footage of an alien is not going to go viral instantly? But there's none. So I'm just saying, I'm thinking if we were being visited, somebody would have some good footage. If we were being visited, I'm thinking maybe Google satellite images would catch spaceships that are not airplanes moving on our surface. If we were being visited, I'm thinking we'd have something better than fuzzy monochromatic video of objects that apparently reveal themselves only to Navy pilots, right? So
one of the reasons is most of these sightings actually occur far offshore in the ocean. And the speculation is this is one of the ways, no, obviously I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on nice and tight.
Do your thing.
This is one of the ways that they monitor us. The best way to do it is to do it where they hold their base where no one is around, which is the ocean.
No, that's not true.
They go in the ocean, they pop up, and they fly out.
It's not true.
What do you mean it's not true?
It's not true. Yeah, nobody lives on the ocean. Yes, that's correct.
In the ocean.
But have you it lives down undersea.
This is what the speculation
is. Okay,
is.
It lives down
That's
undersea.
why these transmedium devices have been these transmedium crafts have been observed.
If you are sure we are being visited by aliens
definitely not sure.
and you don't actually have really good evidence, then you have to say that. Sure.
Well, you know that.
You have to say that. You have to say, this is really happening and they're observing us and they're concealing themselves in this particular way. You have to say that. And so
right.
that's your way to maintain your alien belief system by saying that. And I don't have a problem with it. Go get them. Mm-hmm. Go get them. But all of what has been put forth as evidence for aliens, to me, is insufficient evidence to excite my interest, my research interest in devoting time to finding it out. But it definitely has excited other people. I have not stopped them. I am not saying defund the military program on UAPs, which of course is just updated UFO. Right?
I know they like to say that now because there's like a stigma to UFO.
Yeah, I know. That's just that's a really transparent,
sneaky way of doing it.
No, it's not even sneaky. It's actually, I think it's embarrassing. It's like maybe if we call them UAPs,
people take them seriously.
People will take them seriously. No, it's just.
I'm of the belief that they're probably akin to what we did on Mars. I don't think there's aliens in them. I have a feeling that these things are probes. And I feel like if you just think about biological entities flying through the universe, like why do that?
Right.
When you have sophisticated technology that's good enough right now from our like relatively primitive in consideration of what we think is possible a million years from now, right? But we can send that Mars rover around. We have a helicopter on Mars. I mean, there's multiple satellites flying through the universe right now taking images. We can do all that.
Yeah, but
Why would
our
we...
probes are not targeting the Martian military fighter pilots.
Because there's no Martian military. But if there were, we
They're
certainly
just
would.
sitting out in the open.
Right, but if we had something like, are you familiar with one of the most famous cases was a case with Commander David Fravor of the Navy, who encountered with one or two other jets off of the Nimitz. They encountered this thing that was shaped like a Tic Tac.
Yeah.
You know the story.
Everybody knows this, yeah.
This story. It went from, they tracked it going from 80,000 feet above sea level to 50 in less than a second. They have no idea how it moved. There's no visible propulsion system. It was blocking their radar. It was actively blocking tracking.
This is what their sensors told them.
Exactly.
Just be clear about that.
And then
you're stating information as though it is facts.
I'm stating information as Commander
I
Fravor
don't care.
relayed
That
it.
doesn't matter. He's human,
Right.
and we're all human here. But
I
as
understand
a
what you're
scientist, when you're presenting information, you don't say, this thing was at 80,000 feet and it dropped to zero to sea level in 1 second, or whatever it was the measure. That's the wrong way to report it. What you say is, we have sensors that told us this is what happened.
I understand what you're saying.
Okay?
Yes.
That's a very important distinction.
Yes.
And so now, all right, your first question then, tell me about the sensors.
Yeah.
Okay, are they double checked? Are they, you know? And so, but if you're just going to say there's this craft at 80,000, then everyone is thinking about a craft, and no one is thinking about the sensor.
They actually saw it with their eyes too. This is something that they actually got.
You can't see something at 80,000 feet.
No, the actual visual on the craft.
Okay.
They didn't see it at 80,000 feet, but this craft, it's not just something that was tracked with equipment.
Got it. But they didn't see it at 80,000 feet.
Right.
That's my point. So by the way, this level of attention I'm giving to the detail and the reporting of information, we do that with fellow scientists for much less
Oh, for sure.
than if we're being visited by intelligent aliens from another planet. Go visit go to a scientific conference and watch the level of scrutiny we put on other people's work. If they have a sensor that has a new result, we'll say, did you calibrate the sensor? How long has the sensor been in use? I'll give you an example. Here's an example, okay? Do you remember Planet X?
Yes.
The search for Planet X.
Nibiru.
That was one. There were several incarnations of Planet X.
Right.
That was among them. Okay.
That was the
I'm
most
talking about,
wacky.
I'm talking about 100 years ago, Planet X. Okay.
Yes. 100 years ago?
Well, there's several Planet X's, right? So Uranus was moving weirdly and nobody understood. Maybe there's a planet beyond it whose gravity we have yet to reckon in our equations. Boom! We discover Neptune. Wait a minute. Neptune is moving a little unfamiliarly. My phone is. Sorry about
You're
that.
going to drop that thing and break it with no case on?
So, I got the 12, and yeah, I can still do this. I'm just sorry.
Yeah,
it's
I
not
get
dropping.
it. Last time you were here, you had a broken case. You're a broken back. Remember?
So, why are you distracting me?
Sorry.
I was like on a roll, and
Neptune.
So Neptune.
Gravity.
We're looking at Neptune's orbit, and it's not following Newton's laws, and this is odd. Well, we've been down that road before. Uranus didn't follow Newton's laws. We proposed another planet, and we found it. So Neptune's not following all the laws of gravity that from all the other planets in the sun. There must be another planet out there, a Planet X. Let's look for it.
Is that Bode's law?
Bode's law is a fitting function that gets you. It got a little more attention than it deserved. It's just that planets, every next planet is about twice as far away from the sun as the previous one. So you just make a quick equation out of that. And,
Oh, that's it?
But it doesn't work for Mercury, and didn't work for Pluto. And
I thought it was based on the mass of the planet.
no, not at all. Mass has nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it?
And it predicted the asteroid belt, but the asteroid belt, there's no planet there.
Right.
Okay. And if you glue together all the pieces of the asteroid belt, you get something like 5% the mass of the moon. So yeah, it gave us the location of the asteroid belt, but that's not a planet. So Bode's law, it's fun to play with, but there are limits to how far you want to declare its relevance to the actual universe. So we're out here at Neptune, and so I said maybe there's a planet X. Everybody started looking. Including Percival Lowell. All right, back in the 1920s. And he says, I want to find planet X because something's perturbing Neptune. So he sets out looking for it, and he doesn't find it. Then he hires Clyde Tombaugh, and he dies, so he doesn't see the results of this. Clyde Tombaugh, he said, I can't find it either. I will just systematically search everywhere. Because if you think something's affecting you gravitationally, you ought to have some idea where it is to be tugging on you in that way. All right, that's not some kind of weird. It's like you're moving differently. Where must the thing be to tug on you so that you're moving in that way? Right. No one could find such a planet X. So Clyde Tombaugh said, it's got to be out there somewhere. I will systematically image the entire sky. All right, and you got to do it on multiple nights because if something's moving, you'd see it change from one picture to the next. He does this, discovers Pluto. Was Pluto where planet X was supposed to have been? No. Was Pluto the mass that planet X should have been? Everyone assumed it was. But over the decades, the mass of Pluto got lower and lower and lower as our estimates got more and more accurate. And then we found out that Pluto is 1/5 the mass of our moon, made of half ice. And this is why Pluto got into trouble later in the 20th century. It's not because we had some vendetta against Pluto. Pluto just never belonged in that list to begin with. That's really how you need to think about it. Anyhow, there's still the matter of Neptune's orbit. Pluto did not have enough mass to make those changes. So the search for planet X continued. So what happens? All right. 1993. A colleague of mine named Miles Standish. Okay? He's probably related to the Miles Standish on the Mayflower. He is an astrophysicist, looked at all of the data people were using to say Neptune's orbit was crooked. Looked at all the data. Then he found out that at one particular observatory, was it the gearbox or the timing mechanism, had just been cleaned or swapped out. Or there was some, because in the observing log, you write down everything because you just don't know. Okay, was there a glitch in the current? Was there a bird fly over? You make notes of everything. One of the observatories whose data was being grafted together with the other observatories had this sort of gearbox. I don't remember if it was a gearbox. There was some mechanical adjustment that was made. He said, I wonder if that had an effect on the positioning of this telescope. He removed those data from his analysis and fitted data to all the other telescopes that he had for the positions of Uranus. Of Neptune. When he did that, planet X evaporated in that instant. In that instant. There was no planet X. All the other data, when he connects across, removing the data from the one where the observing log said they did something different, Neptune fell right on to Newton's laws. And so since 1993, there is no planet X. And Pluto, and were it not for that, we probably would have been a long time before we discovered Pluto because no one would have looked for it.
They found another Pluto.
Let me just finish the lesson there.
Okay.
The lesson there is you have information that you think is correct from your sensors. This was an observatory, a fine observatory. And you're going to say, this observatory says Neptune is misbehaving. But then you learn there was something wrong with the data. You throw it out. So I'm trying to say this happens all the time in science. You have to be careful what you're analyzing before you declare that what the thing measured is true, and then realign all your resources to address what you think is true when it might have just simply been a glitch or multiple glitches or anything. And we do this all the time in science. So you were saying.
Well, several things. One, when we're talking about planetoids and planets, the idea about Pluto is that Pluto is part of the Kuiper Belt, right?
It's the first and currently known largest member of the Kuiper Belt. And it makes sense. You know, we didn't even know the Kuiper Belt existed in 1930.
Yeah.
So for us, it's just the ninth planet. But it's the tiniest and the littlest, and it's got a weird orbit that crosses the orbit of other planets, and that's a little weird, but we'll grandfather it in. Okay, Pluto. And then, wait a minute, you have brethren. In the 1990s, we discovered other objects out there with similar orbits to Pluto. So maybe Pluto is not the ninth planet. It's the first object in a new swath of real estate discovered in the outer solar system called the Kuiper Belt. And that's where it stands right now.
And this Kuiper Belt, there was some speculation. Now, I read this quite a while ago, so forgive me. But there was some speculation that we might be in some sort of a binary star system, and there might be like a burnt out star that's way, way, way outside of our solar system.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's causing the galactic shelf to drop off. Like this Kuiper Belt is responding to some other gravity that's way out there. Is that correct?
Okay. So
did I garble all that up?
You mix like 3 or 4 different scenarios.
That's common for me.
There was a while there where we looked at the extinction records of species on Earth and found some periodicity to it. I forgot, was it every 20 million years or something? There was some period that repeated where the fossil records showed a dramatic drop, or a mild drop in the species count from one layer to the next in the geological sediment. And so if this has a rhythm to it, there is nothing in the solar system that has a 20 million year rhythm. So someone suggested maybe the sun has a really eccentric, as in its orbit, it's in a binary star system where there's another star that plunges in through the solar system, coming through the Kuiper Belt, and then goes back out in this dance with the sun. So we wouldn't have seen it in our civilization, because this is all right. But when it does that, it disrupts the Kuiper Belt gravitationally. And if you do that, you will send a rain of comets down, a higher than average rate of comets down into the inner solar system, and then you could render many life forms extinct on Earth, just the way we lost the dinosaurs from an asteroid. So, and they even gave a name for it. They called it Nemesis. That was the Nemesis double star system of the sun. But so we took a closer look at the data. It turned out it had been filtered in a way that revealed rhythms that were not really there. And if it's orbital, the rhythm should be perfect, because Newton's law doesn't mess around, and they weren't exactly right. So that concept has evaporated, but it got people going for a while. It got a lot of press attention.
And the part about the Kuiper Belt, about the galactic shelf, that there seems to be some sort of a drop-off.
Okay, so now with regard to another scenario, which got folded into yours, is that our orbit around the galaxy is not sort of a straight circle. I mean, a clean circle. We actually wave in and out of the plane of the galaxy. All right, like if you imagine sort of Nessie, Loch Ness Monster doing that. Okay. So to imagine that, so our orbit, our entire solar system is dipping up and out and through. So another suggestion was, in fact, I think there was an entire book on this. Forgive me for not remembering the name. It suggested that the entire solar system, as it passes through the plane of the galaxy, that disrupts.
He asked me if I would like to go with him to the Pentagon, be part of his team, and I was honored and gladly accepted. So I then served for 4 years in the Defense Department with Senator Cohen, Secretary Cohen at that point, in various positions, all intelligence related and security related. And then I was asked to stay on after Clinton departed, and so I worked for Secretary Rumsfeld.
A little bit closer there.
And then went back to the Senate Intelligence Committee as the Minority Staff Director shortly before the Second Iraq War.
So when did you get interested in the subject of UFOs?
That happened at a surprisingly early age. I was 7 years old at a boarding school, and the principal of the school, a friend of his, had photographed video, an old reel-to-reel Kodak movie camera, had taken a home movie of a video of a UFO flying in beautiful blue skies, cumulus clouds, huge golden disc that comes into the picture and banks, goes into a cloud, and it disappears into this sort of wispy cloud in a way that would be very, very hard, I think, to fake somehow, particularly in those days with no computer-generated imagery. And it comes out the other side and then sort of goes off over the horizon. And I was, stunned and flabbergasted, and myself and all the other kids ran outside that night and were looking at the stars, and it just sparked my curiosity, a lifelong curiosity.
So once you got into government, and once you were there, you're basically there, you had to start asking questions like, did you wait a while? Like, how long did you ask for? You're like, hey, what do you guys know?
Yeah, well, for a long time I waited. Very rarely. I looked for openings. I looked for opportunities. So, for example, the stigma is so great that you're reluctant, obviously, to raise that issue. A couple times there were some natural opportunities. So one of my colleagues on the Intelligence Committee was going to Hawaii for some oversight trips, meetings, and he went to the Maui Space Optical Tracking Facility. And I said to him, while you're there, why don't you just check and see, do they ever see anything weird they can't explain and so forth? So he did, and Pete called me up and said, hey, you wouldn't believe this. I've got this videotape here, and it shows these weird things. And so I talked to the Air Force people. They sent the tape to us. Turns out it was totally unclassified. I showed it to Senator Cohen and some others, and it ended up on national TV, actually, but didn't generate any further response. Everybody just kind of threw their hands up in the air and said, well, that's interesting, but we don't know what to do with it. It was Ted Koppel's Nightline show that this tape was played on. It showed sort of 5 objects moving parallel to the ground, possibly in formation. They're in the atmosphere because they're burning, they're interacting with something. There's plasma coming off them, which wouldn't presumably be happening in space, but they seem to be too slow to be meteorites. So it was mystifying and difficult to explain, never did get an answer. Occasionally something like that would happen, but by and large, the issue almost never arose.
The issue is a weird issue because if you bring it up in the wrong company or at the wrong time, you could be dismissed as a loon. Did you feel that when you were there? Like as a person who had a budding interest in unidentified flying objects and what have you, did you feel like this is a politically risky thing to discuss, especially to discuss like in serious terms? Like, do you believe in these things? Like, what are they? What do we know? Was that an issue?
Absolutely. I concealed my interest in the topic for years and very carefully, and confided to a few trustworthy friends, had a few heart-to-heart talks with a couple individuals when I found a fellow traveler who was interested in this topic, but by and large, absolutely wanted to conceal that and not reveal that.
Did you know Clinton?
No, I did not.
He would be the guy that I would go to. I feel
Well, there was
a
request that came to me once that I think was from President Clinton, and it was one of the astronauts claimed to have seen a UFO out at Edwards Air Force Base, and it was videotaped, he said. And he described this in his memoir and wanted the president to get hold of the tape, of the video. And Secretary Cohen came back to the Pentagon from a meeting, and a message came down to me to go to try to find this tape. And unfortunately, there was I got nowhere with that. The Air Force was adamant that there was no such tape, there was no such information. Anything they had on UFOs had been destroyed. So I had one of these situations that's very common in this area, which is you have just 2 apparently credible sources, but utterly conflicting, irreconcilable information, which seems to happen often in this field.
Now, being as you were in government and very close to literally the machine that runs the world. What's the general perception when people are discussing these things in Washington? What's the general perception of what's going on with these things?
Well, I'm happy to say that it's changed. That perception has changed considerably in the last few years. People feel like they have permission to talk about it.
When do you think this happened?
This happened after the New York Times article and subsequent press beginning in 2017, December 2017. And that sort of gave people permission to talk about this. And I've actually had Pentagon friends who said, this is kind of cool. We don't have to go in the closet to talk about this anymore.
What do you think kept it in the closet before? Like, when did the stigma start? And do you think this was like intentionally sort of set up this way?
It was. It was the Robertson Panel Commission, 1953, and they concluded during those Cold War days that this was a potential threat to national security because UFO reports might overwhelm our air defense and communication system, and that the Soviets might spook the public and somehow manipulate this issue. So they actually advocated in writing that this issue be debunked and discredited, and the government went ahead and did so extremely successfully, unfortunately.
And this all started with the Project Blue Book, correct?
Correct. It was during that era.
So what was the gentleman's name that was running Project Blue Book again?
Well, there were different people.
The guy who went on
the astronomer, Alan Hynek.
Hynek.
Yeah.
And Hynek went on to become a believer. So he started debunking and was told, essentially, the way he reported it was that he was told to kind of debunk every single case. Everything he could find, whether it was swamp gas or, ball lightning, find some way to explain this away. But then once he left Project Blue Book, he started openly discussing these cases, and he started discussing his own belief.
That's correct. And he felt badly burned as well because he was trying to carry out his mandate that the Air Force had given him. As you may recall, in one instance, he went to Michigan and famously declared that the people of Michigan were misconstruing swamp gas for flying objects.
Yeah.
And so Gerald Ford, who was representing that district, got incensed, as did the local population, and Congress took a fleeting interest in the topic. And Dr. Hynek was very embarrassed, and understandably so. It was really quite insulting to these people who had very clear sightings of these objects. So he did eventually change his view publicly and was very critical of Project Blue Book.
Was all this stuff, like being inside the government and knowing how prevalent these sightings are and how credible some of them are, was it frustrating to you to be a part of this and to know that this information is kind of being squashed and distorted? And
it's interesting that what happened actually is that I wasn't seeing information squashed or distorted in the Pentagon or the intelligence community. I saw one instance of a very technical, very classified report that explained away some sightings that nobody even knew were being reported otherwise. It was kind of odd to see this explanation from about an incident that had not been otherwise reported. But generally,
what was this incident?
This was some military pilots doing reconnaissance missions who were seeing some very unusual lights. And the Directorate of Science and Technology at CIA did a extensive analysis and found a plausible explanation for what they had seen that was not extraterrestrial. And so they published an article on that. It was a good article, a good piece of research. But that was about the only time I ever saw anything that in writing about this subject, which the government said it wasn't following, it wasn't interested in. And I had friends who would call me up. I had a Navy friend who was a pilot, and he said, "You wouldn't believe what happened at our base today. There was a plane up and there was a UFO flying around it and it landed." And he knew I was interested in this from college days. And he called me up with his hair on fire to tell me about this incident. But that kind of thing was not going up through channels. So people in the Pentagon, to the best of my knowledge, all the way up to the SecDef, were not hearing or seeing any of these reports. It wasn't until I met Lou Elizondo and his group and some of the Navy guys and talked to the pilots about what was happening on the East Coast from 2015 onward and the Nimitz incident that I found out that this activity had been going on and just wasn't being reported.
So was it that no one in the Pentagon was seeking this out? There wasn't a mandate to go look for it? There wasn't a department that was designed to seek these things out? I mean, what was the reason why it wasn't getting all the way to the Pentagon?
Well, specifically in the case of the Navy in 2016, just today, I believe, or yesterday, DOD announced that they're going to do an IG investigation of this incident, of this phenomenon.
What's IG
this
mean?
issue. The Inspector General.
Okay.
Sorry. So there's going to be an internal investigation at DOD of how they handled this UFO issue. And I believe it's not clear yet. They just made this announcement, and their motives and what sparked this are still a little bit uncertain. But it appears they're going to focus on this issue of how did this fall through the cracks for years? How is it that these guys are flying around, seeing this stuff, it's on the radar, and nobody up the chain of command is being notified? Policymakers, the Secretary of Defense himself, Congress, etc. It was just going into the ether. I mean, there was no effort made to get support to any of those guys, and that's when I, kind of threw the bullshit flag and said, this is unacceptable. And so that's when I started jumping into this.
Do you think it was because of the stigma that's attached to the subject that they just didn't bother bringing it to their superiors?
Absolutely, yeah. People were afraid to report it. And as we saw in the Nimitz case some years earlier in 2004.
Let's explain what we're talking about. We're
Yeah,
talking about
sure.
Commander David Fravor and his sightings off the coast of San Diego, the tic-tac-shaped UFO that moved at extraordinary speed with no known propulsion system. They tracked it on radar. It was actively jamming their radar. It went to their predetermined point where they were supposed to
Cap
scramble.
point.
Yeah. So somehow or another, it had information as to where they were traveling to. Extraordinary capability. Went from
Absolutely
80,000
phenomenal.
feet above sea level to 1 in less than a second. They have no idea what it is, what it does. And then the people on the Nimitz were saying they had been seeing these things.
Correct, and on the Princeton. And when Dave and the other F-18 landed, there was no interest on the part of the intelligence officers of doing anything really other than but ridiculing them.
Yeah.
So they came out, with tin hats on and foil hats, and they were playing Men in Black song or something.
Yeah.
But that case was phenomenal because there were so many witnesses and so many different sensor systems that were verifying independently the visual reporting. So there were multiple radars, there were infrared systems, perfect viewing conditions, broad daylight, middle of the afternoon, multiple aircraft, and all of the data agrees that these craft are doing things that we thought were impossible.
And then there was also the thing that led them to see it in the first place, which that he thought there was something under the surface of the ocean.
Well, what happened was he was vectored, he and his wingman were vectored to intercept that Tic Tac at that point. When they arrived and looked down, they saw it moving around and they saw the water roiled. In fact, I think first they saw the water before they saw the Tic Tac. They saw something unusual. It looked like white water breaking on a reef kind of thing.
Right.
And then they saw the Tic Tac, and then Dave dove down to get close to it, and it reacted to his presence, turned around, viewed him, and then started taking countermeasures. And it was clear to the pilots in both aircraft that this thing maintained a dominant position throughout their engagement with it, that it could easily have done what it wanted to them. They had no chance really of getting behind it or getting the upper hand in that engagement.
Then when he went and reported this, that's when things get weird, right? Because people have to dissect this information and look at this guy, Commander Fravor, a very respected guy, not the type of person who makes up wacky stories. Then when it's supported by all this data, I think that's probably one of the biggest ones that led to being included in the New York Times, right?
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was so credible. And then there was the Go Fast video and the FLIR video and all these other videos that show these things moving in extraordinary ways.
Correct. And they're authentic. The Defense Department acknowledged those videos.
Why do you think they did that?
They didn't do it initially, but ultimately they didn't have much choice. And I think the reason that they finally did is because we had taken this issue to Congress. I had taken I contacted some former colleagues on the committees and said, "You guys really ought to look at this. I mean, it sounds crazy, but give me a chance here." And so a couple of them started taking interest. Some of the staffers started meeting with some of the pilots. When they started requesting briefings, that coming from the Senate Armed Services and Intelligence Committees, that went up the flagpole to the top. And the Navy brass and the senior Pentagon civilians in the Office of the Secretary of Defense became aware that these committees are taking an official interest now. And, we can't fool around with this. And we have to really be straight and put it out there. So at that point, they couldn't tell them in private, yeah, this is real, and then publicly deny it wasn't.
Yeah.
So they came clean.
So this is the great shift, right? The great shift in our time from UFOs being ridiculed, and being these silly things that tinfoil hat conspiracy theory people believe in, to the Defense Department agreeing that this is an issue.
That's correct. Very interesting to me. I saw your interview with Elon Musk, and he seemed unaware as
He's an alien, bro. Listen,
well,
he's covering
okay, maybe
up.
he's part of the cover-up.
Yeah.
Because he seemed unaware that his own government has taken the position that UFOs are real.
I got Elon in trouble because we smoked pot on
I
the
heard
show.
about that.
And when he got in trouble, he was like, his top secret clearance was in trouble, and there was a lot going on. And I think he's trying to play it straight and narrow when he's around me now.
Okay,
like aliens, outrageous.
I was advised that getting high in the program would not be a good thing to do.
Yeah, it's not a good move. Don't do it. If you want to drink, that's probably a better move.
I'll stick to the coffee.
Okay, stick to the coffee. That's a good move.
You were talking about my show. It was supposed to be
Sasquatch.
It was supposed to be but it was supposed to be a show on Sci-Fi Channel, an interview show where I'd interviewed everybody. All the people in the field of cryptozoology and that, and sci-fi and science fiction and theory and UFOs. And I had Stephen Greer and Stephen Bassett on that same day.
I've had Stephen Greer on the show too.
Okay, so I interview Stephen Bassett, and I'm about to interview Greer, and I get a call in about like noon, at our noon break, and they call and they say, your show's canceled. We want you out of the studio by the end of the day, and we're not going to air anything that you've done. Stephen Bassett, Stephen Greer, the UFO show, it gets canceled that day. Now, maybe Ms. Hammer made a decision, talk shows aren't really our thing, or Aykroyd's not really what we want on our network, or I don't know. Was she called by someone, or what? Why that day when I was going to do this vivid, UFO show that was going to go out on the air eventually? Why then did it get canceled?
Well, how are the ratings? How are the ratings?
Well, no, we never got to air. I did 26 of them, and we never got to air.
It never got to air?
No.
So you just filmed them, and it never got... Did you guys do any wacky ones where they got the film and like, what are these crazy fuckers doing? Was there any of that? Like if you were non-believer, non-UFO enthusiast.
It was a pure interview show. I didn't show any footage. I just interviewed.
Just talk to people.
Yeah. So the day of my UFO show that I was going to do my big Stephen Greer and Stephen Bassett show, we got canceled. So, there's
But do you think that they would listen, Sci-Fi is all about those shows. I mean, I watched an episode of Sci-Fi where there's a bunch of people that claim to be trapped in a cabin in Maine because werewolves were outside. It's just like they're into nonsense.
They don't do talk shows.
I did a show on Sci-Fi. I did a show called Joe Rogan Questions Everything. Where
how long did it last?
Not very long, but part of that was my idea.
And then you worked for Bonnie.
Keep doing it.
You worked for Bonnie Hammer.
No,
right?
it was different people back then.
Because she's one of the smartest executives in the industry, and I don't doubt that she'll be running NBC someday or all of Universal. But I would always like to know what happened. Did someone call you, Bonnie, and say, don't bring this up now? I don't know.
I don't think anyone's going to call people about UFOs. Mm-hmm. I mean, if they're going to make phone calls, they're going to, take out Don Lemon or something because he talks shit about Trump. They're not going to, what I mean?
I guess so. Yeah, maybe it
doesn't make sense.
I don't know. I'd always like to know what happened.
UFOs are openly discredited by normal people.
Well, not entirely, though. Half the world believes. If you look at the work of Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Kean, New York Times reporters, they're credibly reporting this stuff. Barney and Betty Hill, the state of New Hampshire, has certified their experience with a plaque. You can go to the place where they were allegedly abducted, and the state of New Hampshire has UFO incident right there.
We both know that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean it happened. Because
it means it's a state certified or state recognized
New
paranormal
Hampshire.
experience.
You can get anything certified in New Hampshire. That's a goofy place.
Well, I don't know.
Shout out to New Hampshire. But
Adam Sandler comes from there. That's one.
well,
He's definitely a national treasure.
Yeah.
There it is. There it is.
Betty
The
and Barney Hill incident.
Isn't that great? I
Yeah.
mean, wow! Like a state certified, and also another state certified
61.
paranormal. 61. Oh, right.
It was
61.
right around the time. That was a couple months before Kennedy was shot, right? Wasn't he shot in November?
63 for him, right?
Yeah. Oh, was it 63?
Yeah, 63, and
That's
that
right.
wasn't 47. Yeah, but there you go. There
Portsmouth,
you
New
go.
Hampshire,
So
couple
look at
Betty
that.
and Barney Hill experienced a close encounter with an unidentified flying
And then in
object
Marfa,
2
Texas,
hours
you heard of the
before.
Marfa Lights?
No, I have not heard of that.
The
one.
Marfa Lights are these anomalous, and that's a state kind of recognized paranormal mystery too. Mysterious Marfa Lights. They have a kind of a picnic area where you can watch them at night. No one knows what they are. They appear every night and they bounce around on the horizon. They go up and down and back and forth. People say, oh, they're headlights from different cars on the highway, but the Air Force, the state police, they've all tried to figure out what they are, and they just don't know what the Marfa Lights are. And
You
they're
know what-
recognized by the state of Texas as a paranormal event.
You
But
know
I
what
like your
ball lightning
skeptical
is, right?
view. Yes, I do.
Yeah,
I
ball
like your
lightning
view.
is a real thing that's created by pressure inside the tectonic plates.
But every night, consistently going back
No.
and forth in symmetrical patterns.
But I mean, every night, can we go there tonight and
yes,
go film it?
Yes, we could.
100%.
Absolutely.
Really?
Yep. Marfa Lights.
How many videos of the Marfa Lights are available?
Go ahead.
Looking, there's a
Marfa,
lot.
and Marfa,
There's a lot
Texas,
of them? Let me see
MAR.
some.
There they are. There they
Let's
are.
see what we got here. Whoa. What do we got here?
Yeah, no one knows.
That's
They've looked.
rednecks. They're driving their trucks over the hill.
Well, that's what they say in
They
the
got
Air
those
Force and the
big
police.
lights.
They've looked in there. They've done surveys. They've done geodetic surveys. What is it? Is it gas? Is it what?
What do they think it is? What's the official explanation?
No one knows. Mystery Lights. The state of Texas has a little plaque, the Marfa Mystery Lights. Enjoy them because they're there. They're going to be there tonight.
Those
6
seem-
p.m. to 2 in the morning.
Really? Every night?
Every night.
I'm going to get a place out there.
Every night.
Smoke weed and stare at the sky. Is there any UFO sightings that you think are nonsense? Is there any like mainstream ones that you listen to and you're like, I'm not buying that one?
Well, all the people that I've talked to that have had sightings and have had experiences seem very genuine. I don't know that I don't know anyone that's been blown out publicly that I would doubt. I mean, can you think of one? I don't know. I believe the Allagash boys, Calvin Parker down there in Mississippi, the Pascagoula incident. I mean, again, their lives were severely negatively affected by these experiences.
Right, but they didn't know whether or not that was going to be the case when they reported on it. A lot of people do silly things that negatively affect their life.
Yeah.
And they're not aware. They're not future tellers.
There's a guy there. He says that the alien appeared at his back screen porch door. He's in Colorado. Do you know that gentleman? He says that
You're balls deep in this, man. You know all these stories.
this guy. I don't know if I believe him because
No?
Colorado alien at the back door. I don't know.
Doesn't seem right.
I just looked. I don't know if I believe him or not. It just like he was fabricating there. That guy.
I'm sure there's a lot of people fabricating things, and I'm also sure there's a lot of people that believe they're telling a true story, but in fact are schizophrenic or they have some issues. Or I think there's a lot of that going on.
You know, Billy
too.
Meyer was doubted for many
Sure,
years.
I know that
What do you think
story.
about him? The pictures are so vivid, and the Pleiadian story so vivid. I mean,
got a book.
Billy Meyer.
the other-
You can
it's
put
in the other
Billy Meyer
room.
UFO photos. They'll be
Where's
up
he
there.
from? What?
He's Swiss. He was a Swiss.
Yeah, we have his book. That was
I know.
Somebody came to the Comedy Store and gave me
with
this
the big
book
big,
on that
the
guy.
big pictures and that. Yeah,
But
there it is.
isn't that widely proven
well,
that
they
that
say.
guy's full of
Well,
shit?
look at the one by the pine tree. They're going. Oh, he attached the saucer to the pine tree.
I heard
but,
he threw it in the air and took a picture of it.
Okay, well, that's one theory, but wasn't it, didn't they do that just to show the scale of their ship? And some of those photos are pretty convincing. I don't know. And, okay, if you want to say
One
doubt.
guy who keeps taking awesome pictures of UFOs, I'm not buying it.
Well, again, if there was anyone that I had doubt, because so much doubt has been
at
thrown
that
his
one.
way, that's pretty. I mean, how do you? Well, I suppose with Photoshop, but Bruce Maccabee, I believe, Bruce Maccabee's analyzed these.
What
He
has he
wrote this
said?
book. He says
Yeah.
they're real.
Right, but a guy who's writing a book on UFOs is analyzing UFO
No, but-
pictures, saying they're real. This
No,
guy
but
wants to
Bruce
believe.
Maccabee is a doctor and he's a science. He worked for the Naval Air.
I want to talk to his ex-girlfriends, see if he's full of shit. So you know what I'm saying? Like you could say all these positive things about
Yeah,
people.
he worked for the Navy.
Look at that one.
He's the expert. Well, he's
That
the
one's-
expert. He said
That's the Gucci version.
Yeah,
look at that.
look at those balls. What
That's
are
a
they?
bling bling.
Those are the pinballs I'm
That would,
talking
if
about.
you had an Instagram account and you were an alien, that's the one you'd
But
rock.
I think he did a photo analysis, and he said that Bruce believes they're real, and I believe Bruce. If you read this book here, he's the real thing. Like what Stanton was the real thing, Bruce Maccabee's the real thing, because they're scientists who are doing very very thorough and close inquiry on the matter. So if you ask me who I doubt, maybe I don't know, Billy Meyer. I don't know.
Yeah, he took too many.
Yeah.
If you had like 3.
It's like a glut. It's like too much chocolate.
Yeah, come on, bro. That's all you're doing? You're out there and they just come to you? Why don't you set up a camera crew 24/7 for a couple weeks? And
Well, Stephen Greer uses lasers. He points them up to the sky and kind of attracts them that way. Yeah, well. He and his wife and daughters have said that if they've sat out and watched these things come and go in North Carolina at their house.
But people saying that something happened and something
how about all the
actually happened.
photos?
But his thing is about UFOs. He's made documentaries about UFOs. His business is he knows a lot about UFOs.
What you
I've
want
talked to Greer. I'm not buying it.
What you want is you want the Herb Shermer story.
What's the Herb Shermer story?
Nebraska highway patrolman on patrol, sees a flash of light in the Ashland oil refinery near Nebraska. Flash of light in an oil refinery in the broad daylight, not a good thing, could be a fire. Goes up, not into UFOs, highway patrolman, goes up. He was taken into a ship and deposited. He's one of the famous ones. So no agenda there. Didn't want to tell a story.
Okay.
Again, got into trouble for him.
Here's the thing.
Herb Shermer. Shirmer.
No disrespect to Herb, but some cops are crooked. They steal people's money. Some cops rape people. Some cops pull people over for nothing. Some people shoot people for non-existing crimes. There's a lot of people that just happen to be police officers that are also full of shit.
A lot of people are full of shit. That's true. But again, here he is. He's a guy. Why would he say that?
Where's the evidence? Where's his evidence?
Well, his evidence is anecdotal, like a lot of it. But
that's a problem, right?
Well, the Phoenix Lights. There's video of that.
That's a different one. That's a different story.
Lonnie Zamora, Zamora. He was a New Mexico highway patrolman. He said a saucer landed, and he saw it land. And
Dan Aykroyd. Everybody wants to be special. And one of the best ways to be special is for you to have a special moment with some special creatures from a special place. And no one else can recognize whether or not you're telling the truth or not telling the truth. You talk about this, and everybody wants to listen, and they listen to you. They're totally fixated on everything you like to say.
Oh, how about Pervez Jafari? Pervez Jafari.
Well, I like the name.
Okay,
Who's Pervez Jafari?
He was an Iranian Air Force pilot. He still lives in Iran. He does many lectures. And he did the famous, it's the Iranian Tehran UFO sighting. He chased a UFO in his jet, and the thing turned off all the electronics in the jet, and he said this thing was moving. How about General de Breuer?
Well, how about David Fravor?
I don't know him.
He's the guy that they were talking about on the Bob Lazar documentary. He experienced something that flew exactly like the Lazar ones. I'm going to talk to him soon. And he incredibly credible. And military accolades. He's a very well respected guy, and he's never had any other fantastical sort of stories that he's told. I can't wait to talk to him about this.
Yeah, Pervez Jafari's a good guest too. You should get him on. And then there's the guy who flew the Alaskan, the Japan Airlines flight with all the wine on it. And the UFO above Alaska, it circled them several times. That's a famous story.
I'd like to get a bottle of that wine.
Yeah, that would be, yeah. So Alaska Airlines sighting, that's another one. So, no, but I like your view. You are not going to sit here and say, "Oh, it's all true. I'm accepting it all."
It's too easy. All I
give you here today, from my experience, is the ones that I believe, and that's Betty and Betty Hill, Travis Walton, the Allagash Boys.
Yeah, Betty and Barney Hill are a really interesting one because also there wasn't a precedent. Betty and Barney Hill in 1961, there wasn't a bunch of people that were talking about these things happening to them. And since then, there have been very many that were really similar, very similar, and it makes you wonder. Because this is what I want to say to people that are skeptical, and of course I'm skeptical. That's why I'm knocking holes in these things.
Yeah.
But if it did happen and you were left alone to try to explain to people something that is incredibly unique, very few people ever experience it. It would be so hard to get people to believe you.
Well,
would be
that's
so
why you
hard,
have to
even
go
if
to
it
a
was true.
professional. You go to a professional.
But even there's no such thing.
You know, well,
there's
John
someone
Mack,
who can.
accept,
Professional
you
means
know.
you make money doing it. Means you studied it and you make money doing it. There's not a single fucking human being on this planet that's a professional explorer of other worlds. Right? There's not a single person on this planet that is a professional expert on alien civilization and can tell you everything they need to know. I know more about French, about the French language, than anyone that's ever lived knows about alien civilizations, and I don't know shit about French. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I know it's a real place. I know France is a real place, and French is a real language, and I could say parlez-vous français. That's more than anybody can explain about any civilization on some other planet.
You got to take the credentials of the people who report these things, and I
do,
refer
I
to
do, but their
the
credentials
Leslie
are
Kean's
entirely
book.
terrestrial.
They are. That's right. No, you know, UFOs, generals, pilots, and on UFOs go on the record. That's Leslie Kean's book, and there's some pretty compelling, you know, stories.
Do you remember
in there.
Arsenio Hall when he had that thing you would do? Things that make you go,
Hundreds in states see flying saucers. Indianapolis News. You know. Anyway, this is a neat book by Bruce. I believe Bruce was the real thing. I believe Stanton is the real thing. And
J. Allen Hynek is one of the more interesting characters to me because
I
he
love
ran
Project Blue Book. Yeah.
He ran Project Blue Book, and his directive was to debunk these stories. Whether or not they were credible, his directive was to say, that's a weather balloon, that's a star, this is swamp gas. That was his directive. But then when he left Project Blue Book, he said, listen, these things are real.
yeah,
He said-
20% of sightings are unexplained. Yeah,
he said
yeah.
these things are real, and when you talk to a man like that
Sure.
who's living was in debunking these things, and then after it was all over, he was compelled to communicate with the American public that there was a real situation going on.
There is, and you know,
He's really interesting to me.
and Ken Arnold, his sighting is pretty compelling. you
Sure.
know. So I don't think they want to form a relationship with us. I think they're coming and going like taxis, and they have been since the beginning of the existence of life on this planet, or the existence of this planet.
Do you think they engineered human beings?
Well, that Mission to Mars movie is one of NASA employees' favorite movies. I think maybe
What is
they
a
might
Mission
have.
to Mars movie? That's a
Mission to
it's a-
Mars, Tim Robbins, really good picture.
It's a
yeah.
doc. It's not a
It's a
documentary.
feature.
It's a
It's a
feature.
feature,
film.
yeah.
Mission to Mars.
Yeah,
What is
it's
it
neat.
about?
It's about the mission to Mars and them discovering there was a civilization there, and that perhaps we were helped along in our development. Yeah.
What year was this around?
I'm not sure. Mission to Mars.
2000. Really?
Really good.
Oh, I remember. It was like a horror movie.
Here's the Marilyn Monroe.
Yes, I saw that movie.
Here's
Marilyn
the cover
Monroe.
with Marilyn Monroe. There's a case for interplanetary saucers. That was in Life magazine.
Okay, I remember this movie now. Was
Yeah.
that a good movie?
It was. It was
Yeah?
really good. In the end, Tim Robbins kind of
There's
floats
been a
off
few
in space.
astronauts that got really deep into UFOs, right?
Absolutely.
Edgar Mitchell
yeah.
was one of them.
Well, I have an interesting story for you, and this is, of course, totally anecdotal,
Might
and
need
it's part of
another
the
drink.
it's part of the lore. And you want another drink?
Hell yeah.
Okay, so
You want a drink? Oh,
Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. I do believe that we actually went to the moon. I don't believe that. I don't believe that that's a fake experience. Some people say, "Oh, well, it was black and the dust didn't." The dust flew up and it wouldn't. It wouldn't. Crystal Head vodka, cleanest vodka on the planet. Anyway, so I believe that one. And I've Buzz Aldrin, a good friend of mine, as a good friend of everybody's, but I love Buzz. And so they go to the moon, and I love that story about there was only 17 seconds of fuel left when they landed, and that he had to kind of hop over some rocks to get there. So. There's a story that Neil Armstrong was at a conference in France in a hotel room, and there was a woman there who had been previously head of MI6, and she was a part of this cocktail party. And she overheard a conversation between Neil Armstrong and another gentleman who was in the intelligence service, and the guy was asking him about the moon landing, and Neil said, there was a frequency that we switched to talk about other things that were happening at that time. And the guy said, "What do you mean?" He said, "When we landed there, on the rim of the crater nearby," he said, "there were several ships, and they were large and menacing."
What's a menacing ship? Shaped
Large.
like one of your bottles of skulls?
Well, no, this is a happy skull.
menacing.
No, the Coneheads starship. Remember the Conehead starship?
I do remember that.
So, that's a total but I think, if that's true, Well,
he only said that one time in French. Maybe their
the
translation
woman
sucked.
again. The woman. Do you want this? Oh, I might as well have it straight, right? The woman was with MI6 purportedly. That's kind of a neat story. I don't know.
Of course, it's a neat story. Edgar Mitchell said that he saw something out there too, right?
Edgar Mitchell did, and
he's passed
Condon.
away. He's passed away since, right?
Yeah,
Edgar has.
No, there were.
He was a firm believer.
And then the STS 1979 STS space shuttle footage. You've seen that STS 1979 tether, satellite tether break.
Oh, I have seen that.
Yeah, the tether broke off. It was a mile long, and they were supposed to spin off a satellite. It was a mile long, and it broke. So the tether is a mile long, but in the back of the tether, you see these lifesaver-shaped rings going back and forth. Well, David Sereda says that's a species that was trying to help the planet, and they were bringing giant water bags and giant water vessels to heal our ozone layer. And it was the STS 1979 space shuttle tether.
Water heals ozone layers?
Water, water to big, massive dumps of water. These were supposed to be these O-shaped, lifesaver-shaped UFO figures. And then what he did was he compared them against the length of the tether, which was a mile long, and said these things would have had to have been, quite large. Now, that's David Sereda. You should have him on. He's a brilliant ufologist and theorist. And STS Space Shuttle 1979.
You got that?
And then Lonnie Zamora, you should also check, and Herb Schermer, SCHIRMAR, and Leslie Keane and Ralph Blumenthal.
This is just a piece of paper, but there's a video footage.
There you go. Evidence for and plasmas in the thermosphere. There we go. There.
10 separate NASA space shuttle missions over 200 miles above the Earth within the thermosphere. The structures appear to be self-illuminated, maybe several meters or kilometers in size, and have 4 distinct morphologies. What is this? What's the title of this? Who's this from? Emeritus Brain Research Laboratory, Northern California, Cosmology.com.
I've never seen that. That's pretty neat.
I don't know. I just stumbled across it. It may be
Ron
bullshit,
Joseph,
but
PhD, Center for Cosmology, Silicon Valley, California. See if you can find it. There is video footage.
There is video. The tether.
The video is weird. And someone described it as ice crystals. And they said that the perspective is what's screwing everybody up. As if the ice crystals are between us and the cable, but it makes it look like they're enormous, but they're actually quite small.
I think at this point we can accept that these ships are real, that they're advanced.
Can we?
Yes, we can. I think we can accept that. There's just so much footage, so many reports. Ted Phillips has trace evidence, so many landing sites, so many. I think we'd accept they're real. I think we accept these beings are real. There are many different species. Some are benevolent to us, some are malevolent. What we have to get past is, okay, now that we know that, how will that help human transformation? Now, John Mack, at this session I was at the Fifth Avenue Medical Institute, a woman got up and she said, I was a socialite in Massachusetts. All I cared about was money and spending money and where I could go and spend money and buying things. And one afternoon I was in my garden and an orange orb came into the garden and a figure got out and lectured me. You have so much power. Just like the guy in the sailboat. You can make this planet a better place. Your obligation now is to use your power and your wealth to make this planet a better place. And she is now one of the leading environmentalists on the planet. She devotes her money and time to this.
What's her name?
I don't know her name. Don't remember her name. But Jan Harzan, I do know his name. He's head of MUFON. And why is Jan Harzan, an ex-IBM mainframe engineer, head of MUFON? Because when he was a boy in Marin County, California, he and his brother were left for the weekend. He's 10 and 12-year-old brother, and he was 10. An orange orb dropped into his backyard, and 2 beings got out and played with them for several hours, and then they came back the next day. And Jan said, I have to go into science. I got to know what that was. That wasn't a helicopter. That wasn't a... Have you had Jan on? Have you had
No.
Yeah, have Jan on, and you should have.
Okay.
You should have Jan on. You should have Beverly Trout on. She's the Midwestern, one of the directors for the Midwest. Sam Maranto, the expert on the Tinley Park cases, which that is so great.
But I want to
You're
just
at
point
the
out that
barbecue.
Dan Aykroyd has no notes in front of him. These words are just flying out of his head. These
I
names
love
are
that
deeply
story.
ingrained in his memory.
The Tinley Park, I mean, the Delta's parking above your family barbecue, So it's entertaining. We got to get past that they exist and get to the point, though. How do we benefit our planet? How do we make this planet better? How do we take these warnings? The Day the Earth Stood Still, one of the greatest UFO movies ever.
Oh, yeah.
He comes down and he says, these nuclear toys you're playing with, we don't like that,
At this radio station. So I go in, and then Mikey, they called him the chimp. He was the casting person.
Yes.
And literally 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I'm in Hollywood shooting this thing, and then I meet you. And then I remember going up to you because I was in awe. It was the first time in Hollywood. I go, and I knew you from News Radio. I was like, how do you do it? And you go, just fucking be yourself. You can be successful. And that's what you're doing right now, just fucking being yourself.
That's
man.
what you're doing too.
We're trying. We're trying,
You
man.
listened.
Well, yeah, I did listen.
What a ridiculous piece of advice. Just be yourself.
Just
Good luck. Whatever you do, don't improve.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Be who you are right now forever. Good luck.
Just be yourself.
That's all you need, bro.
That's it.
Don't
Just
anybody
you.
tell you wrong. Just believe in your dreams. And make a vision board. You gotta have a vision board.
Joe was just trying to get me out of space. Oh, just be you. All right, bye.
No, that is the right advice, especially if you want to be an entertainer. If you can figure out how to be yourself, as long as yourself is actually something interesting. And if it's not, work on yourself.
Yeah, and then you even said that about acting. He's like, I remember specifically, you say, oh, acting's not hard. It's just you yourself and you play that emotion. And I was like, oh, that sounds easy. You like if they
easy in comparison to stand up in some ways, but it's not like I disrespect like the kind of shit that like Daniel Day-Lewis
and
does.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Well, yeah, when they get into a fucking role and you're like, God damn, that guy just owned that shit. Like they get into what I'm talking about is like sitcom acting.
Sitcom acting, yeah.
Sitcom acting,
And they were hiring you to be
so
you
easy
at that time.
100%.
Yeah, so
it was a slightly dumbed down version of me who was into slightly more conspiracy theories than me when I was on News Radio. That's all I was.
Yeah.
It was basically me. Like they wrote a lot of that conspiracy shit in after I talked to them about like JFK and fucking, UFOs and stuff.
You believe in UFOs?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Really?
Yeah.
See, I believe in there's other life forms out there,
Yeah,
but
that's what
I
I believe.
don't think they're coming here.
They might. Here's the
and-
thing. They might. Well, why not think it?
But-
Just because here's one thing I do believe. Most people are full of shit
Yeah.
when it comes to like most of their stories. Like it's hard to find a person that could just tell you what happened based on what they really remember. People want to jazz things up and they want to add salt and pepper.
Yeah.
And they
Had
just
sex with me, did this, did that.
They don't necessarily tell you the truth. They tell you what they think is going to be an engaging story that kind of represents the truth, maybe. Especially when it's a weird thing like you saw something in the sky. What did you really see? How long did you look at it for? How many seconds was it?
Well, I mean, here's the problem I have with UFOs. And I believe there are UFOs, but I don't think they're coming here.
Why
That means
would
they're-
you say that?
Because that means first of all, if they're coming here, that means their technology is way more advanced than ours.
Right.
So why would they care if people saw them? They would show up, if I was an alien and I was that far ahead of us, I would land that bitch right in the middle of Times Square and be like, what? We are here.
But why would you do that?
But why wouldn't I?
Well,
Why
for
am
a
I
couple
hiding
reasons.
in fields where nobody can see us?
Are you aware of how we treat uncontacted tribes?
Yes, to
Yeah,
a point. But
to a point.
But what I'm saying is, if you're that far advanced, they know. If they're coming here, they know. They're way smarter than us,
Right.
Because they've traveled here,
Right.
And we don't even know from far distances we can't even imagine. And they're here; they don't have to hide. It's
But
just
do you
like
think they do it because they have to hide? Or do you think maybe they do it because we can't handle it? Because we can't handle it.
why would they care if we could handle it or not?
Because here's the problem. Whenever any civilization has ever encountered a civilization far superior to them, the results have always been catastrophic every single time. Every time Europeans have invaded North America, every time the Spanish visited the Mexicans, every time that this has happened, it's been a disaster. And this is human beings. If there was something that came down here from another planet and was so unbelievably sophisticated that it could travel through vast distances in space and had insurmountable, impossible technology, that we would look to it for all of our answers. It would become our new daddy. It would completely disrupt all of our governments. It would disrupt all of our religions. It would disrupt every single belief system we have. And people would fall apart. They wouldn't know what to do. Psychologically, it would be devastating. Look, I'm not a doctor.
But-
I'm not a psychologist, but I know most people would not be able to handle it.
I understand that, but why would they care?
Because it
that's
would
my
be-
whole point.
Because
why would they care about
Because
us?
they would be affecting our culture.
But they wouldn't care.
But why wouldn't they care?
But why would they care?
We care about animals, bro. There's a reason why
Yeah.
we have wildlife protection agencies. We have that because we care about animals, and animals don't even know we're a thing. Okay, if you're a deer living in the forest
Mm-hmm.
and you're 2 years old, you might not have ever even seen a person. You don't even know what the fuck we are. But we're trying to keep those deer alive. We spend billions of dollars every year protecting them. We do that because we care about wildlife. If we cared about a rare monkey that we found in Indonesia for some strange monkey, we would do whatever we could to make sure that monkey's populations thrived. If there was a way to help them, I mean, that's one of the reasons why zoos exist. They take rare animals, they try to breed them in captivity, and
But we're also sharing the same Earth.
well, then maybe they look at the universe that way, and maybe they look at
Okay.
nuclear civilizations like our civilization. I mean, our civilization's a very dangerous one because
Oh.
we're a bunch of semi-hairless monkeys with nuclear weapons. I mean, we're fucking nuts, bro.
Oh, yeah.
And we're obsessed with sex. We jack off to our phones. We're taking pills to keep our dick hard. We're all on speed. I mean,
We all have ADD.
I mean, these are and we lie. We lie about shit. We lie about things that people did to us. We pretend people did worse things. We pretend that we didn't do things to people. We lie about stealing. We lie about money. We lie about all kinds of things. I mean, people are
So you're thinking
Crazy.
aliens are thinking about all that before they come down.
Of course they would. Why
See,
wouldn't they?
Because
But why wouldn't they?
I guess I'm coming from a human point of view where we don't give a shit about anything.
But
and-
here's the thing, that's not true. We do give a shit about things. That's why when you go to the Galapagos Islands, you're not allowed to take your shoes
Yeah.
that you walked around Los Angeles and walk around the Galapagos Island because people have done that and they've gotten seeds from their shoes stuck in the sand over there, or the ground over there, and then new plants grow that are invasive species. We're worried about ecosystems. We really
okay.
are. That's
No,
why
I give it-
humans. That's where we're worried about invasive species. When new species get introduced to new ecosystems, it's like we were just talking about this yesterday. Everglades, like people are doing whatever the fuck they can to get the pythons out of the Everglades. These assholes have released pythons, and there's a real fucking redneck Jurassic Park going on in the middle of Florida.
Yeah.
You know, we care.
Yeah, I lived in Miami, man, and at the time I lived in Miami. Talk about like
You did radio out there, right?
yeah, Y100 in Miami.
That was after Fear Factor.
After Fear Factor.
that's-
It landed me that big gig after after I was on Fear Factor.
Well, radio was radio back then.
Dude,
though.
oh
It was
yeah,
real.
It was like huge, man. But I remember they had these lakes, and if you go back like 10 years ago and look up Florida, people were just jogging around lakes getting snatched by alligators.
Yeah.
like just alligators did not give a damn.
They'll
They were
get
just
you.
snatching people.
Yeah.
and I was like, why are people jogging? Like. Like literally, I like stopped jogging.
Well, definitely don't jog near the water.
No, and that's the thing. I believe like 8 people within 6 months got snatched just jogging.
Is that real?
Oh, 100%. Probably about 8 to 10 years ago, just jogging.
I didn't know that there was that many deaths ever from alligators.
Oh yeah, they were getting snatched.
One of my favorite ones was a guy who was running from the cops near Miami. And he was in a stolen car, parked his car on a bridge, jumped off the bridge, and landed on an alligator. Alligator jacked him in front of the cops. And they were just sitting there going, well, there you go.
Guilty.
Can you imagine? The dude jumps off the bridge, splash.
That would be
Look at this.
Look at
Oh, my God.
dude.
Oh, that guy didn't even notice until the last minute.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like that happens in Florida at that time.
That is so crazy. That is such a big thing that eats deer and shit. Look at it. Opens its mouth on them. But meanwhile, it tries to get away from people.
Well, what's interesting, the dude didn't even speed up.
Yeah.
Like
He was
I
probably
would have
really tired.
took off.
Probably really tired.
He was
Been running for a while. Dude, fuck these things, man. Fuck these things. But the craziest thing is when we were showing it yesterday that pythons eat them.
alligators
Whole.
but not
we
that
showed a
size,
video.
though.
Dude, one python ate this fucking big ass alligator and it blew its body apart. Apparently another alligator came along while it had it in its body and tried to eat the python. And so then it was like this disaster of a python with an alligator inside of it with no head.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
but the whole thing was that this python had ate the alligator, and then once they eat it, they can't move because they got a fucking 900-pound alligator.
But you
inside of
love
them.
that shit.
I get a kick out of it.
I know you do. You
I
do.
I
You
got
do.
a problem with. I think
You
it's
love
important.
animals eating other animals.
I think it's important to recognize that we're very insulated from what the fuck is going on by cities.
Yes.
And that in houses and cities and even towns, even if you have a town, it's rare that a fucking wild predator makes its way into your town.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that's the whole rest of the world. That's the whole world, including the ocean. Everywhere is all just predators and prey, predators and prey, predators and prey. We've figured out a way to insulate, but in insulation, the problem is when we're isolated from it, we neglect it as an aspect of nature. We put it in some weird box like, oh my God, this is weird. No, that's not weird. That's normal.
Yeah.
That's normal life. Normal life is big things eating littler things.
And you don't respect it.
Got
you
it.
really don't respect it when you don't see it. Like
Yeah.
my parents want to go to Africa on a safari. I'm like, man, you can have that.
Yeah, I would go if I got one of them like Jurassic Park mobiles that they have with it's all the circle. Where you roll around the circle where you can't get in it.
You see these people are just in regular Jeeps with
Open air Jeeps.
open air Jeeps where a lion's just walking by. I was like, how dumb are you?
And most of the time, nothing happens.
No, most of it, but
of the
it
time.
could be one or two times where if you're in it, you know,
2
like,
years ago, a woman who worked on Game of Thrones, she was there on vacation and she got pulled out of her fucking car.
That's right.
She rolled down the window to take a picture and the cat came and snatched her out of the car.
But don't you think people kind of like that deserve it? Like people that roll down windows and not safer, like that's like people jumping in the pit at the zoo the other day to take a selfie.
The roll down the windows thing, I think, is really just, it's what we're talking about, that you're not around it enough.
Yeah.
So you don't understand what it is.